All right, I'll say this right up front. You do not need a $300 camp knife to enjoy your next camp out. To make memories, to prepare wood for a fire, the meal that you're going to cook over that fire, to whittle and carve and practice basic woodscraft. All of that can easily be done with an inexpensive fixed blade. But today I want to share my top 7 favorite premium camp knives with you that go above and beyond in craftsmanship, performance, materials, and ultimately take that amazing camp out experience and then crank it up to 11. And while all these blades are awesome, nothing is perfect, so I'll be highlighting the good and the bad in each of these designs. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. Let's dive in. Now, we all have different definitions for what a camp knife is. For me personally, and the blades we're looking at today fall into the category of a minimum of 4.5 inches of blade length, maximum maybe around 6. They're usually lightweight, easy to carry on the belt, and best suited to be paired with other woods tools like axes and hatchets for chopping and splitting, and some sort of saw for major tree falling. Camp knives to me are not one tool like survival knife options. Those type of blades are larger, bigger, heavier in my mind than what we're looking at today. But leave a comment below and let me know what your definition of a camp knife is. Now, our first blade is the American Tomahawk Company Rifleman. This design is so cool, and what sets this apart from any of the other blades here on the list is it is the largest, lightest blade, that combo. This knife weighs 6.5 ounces before the sheath, but you get a 5-inch cutting edge on AEBL steel with a really cool profile that's very aggressive and piercing, but still has enough belly for good slicing. And because it's so lightweight, if you like hiking into your camping spot, this might be an excellent option because you're not going to sacrifice size, but you will be able to cut down on the weight. And then on top of that, you get a leather sheath that kind of flows with the old American frontier styling trapper knife that this kind of harkens to, but it has 2 screws that you can take the belt attachment and swap for right or left. So it makes it ambidextrous, which is really rare on most leather sheaths. So it's a nice little touch. Now, the one trade-off with this design is that the neck tapers quite a bit, so it's a pretty narrow neck, and there's no handle scale around the guard, even though it is rounded. So you're coming in contact up there when you index on a lot of metal, and you have great indexing, but there can be tendency, especially if you have larger hands, for your finger to float and maybe not give you quite the leverage that you might be looking for. Whereas if they had just continued the scale all the way down, maybe thickened the neck just a little bit, it would have been a more ergonomic, fuller feel in the hand. So it harkens to the style of the American frontier, but it could be a drawback if you have larger hands or you like bigger handle scales at your index point. Now, I know many of us are married, not just to our favorite camp knife, but also to our significant other, our spouse who we trust and rely on through thick and thin. Same thing is true for the ring on your finger. It should say, "I'm taken," but keep up with your lifestyle through thick and thin. Well, since 2022, I've been wearing a Groove silicone ring. It's followed me through trails, campouts, workouts, you name it, but recently Groove launched their first of its kind tungsten carbide ring, and I had to check it out. And the first thing I noticed right away is their signature breathable inner grooves for all-day comfort. No pinching or swampy fingers, and it's backed by Groove's crazy 94-year no BS warranty. Lose it, break it, doesn't fit, they'll replace it. And the best part, the set includes their high-end tungsten ring and a backup ZUES silicone ring with those breathable channels included. So you can dress it up for dinner out with your wife, or a day at the office, or when you want to go full rugged in the backcountry. So guys, if you're tired of rings that can't keep up with your lifestyle, check out the link popping up here or in the description box below over to the Groove Life site and check out their tungsten ring set. I know you won't be disappointed. Now, let's pivot to a camp knife I think every single person, if you have the means, should have in your rotation, and it is the URSUS 45 by White River knives. This should be a staple in everyone's camp kit. This blade is so well executed on so many fronts, it is really hard to find a problem. At 4.5 inches of blade length with an extremely high flat grind on 5/32 stock means that it is slicey as all get out, but still robust enough because White River does amazing work with their steels that you're able to really work with the tool. You're not afraid of it being too fragile, and scared of breaking the tool in some way. You get a 90-degree spine. You can choose from different handle color patterns on the micarta. It has a very neutral grip, so with a very full neck, the very opposite of what we just saw. So you have full real estate in the hand, and you get one of the best production Kydex sheaths on the market. It has the ability to put a tension screw in. You have matching fire steel to your handle, ambidextrous leather drop leg. The sheath alone is worth like $80 if you had a custom Kydex maker make it for you. And then on top of that, they offer currently 3 different steel options to choose from. My version is S35VN. Awesome, and I have zero plans on really upgrading at this point unless I find some sort of deal on the other 2 steels. There is a DLT exclusive CPM 3V steel option, and then there is also, when available, a MagnaCut steel option. So you can really choose and dial in your preference, with the S35VN being the most inexpensive and the MagnaCut being the most expensive. So this knife, okay, this is super nitpicky. It would have to be the exposed bird beak on the back. It's not necessary, and it would, if you're chopping or hacking with the tool, I mean, it's not really designed for that, but it can put a shock point or a hot spot on your hand when you're doing wrist flicks and things like that, where if they had just fully encapsulated the handle scale, the tang with the handle scale, then it would have been superb, perfect. I probably couldn't find a problem with the design. So that's a little detail. There's this Cub, which is the mini version. You guys ask me all the time, what do you think about that? I reviewed that knife. Because of that exposed tang and the much shorter handle, it creates a hot spot all the time for me, and I'm not a fan of the ergonomics on the Cub. Just a little quick data point, the mini version of the URSUS. The URSUS 45 is one of the premier, best camp knives money can buy, in my opinion. Leave a comment below, let me know your thoughts, and if you own one, why do you like it, and what steel choice did you particularly decide to go with? Now, throughout the video, if there's a particular knife you're familiar with, I have chapters in the timeline below. You can skip ahead and hop around, and I will have links to all the blades that we're talking about in the description box, as well to those affiliate networks. So if you want to check those out, you can always do that. All right, let's flip these around so I can keep track of what we talked about and what we haven't. The next knife on the list is bonkers. I know some of you are going to be so stoked when I say it, and some of you are going to be like, dude, you're a moron. That is not a camp knife. It's the Zero Tolerance 0006. I had to put this on this list. Now, this is going to be the largest blade on our list today at 6 inches from guard to tip. And here's the deal. This is why this is on this list. Of course, it has an iconic, like, bayonet, K-bar fighting knife style. When they released this model a few years back, I took this out camping and did a bunch of testing with it. This has one of the best camp knife blade shapes from guard to the tip you're gonna find. With CPM 3V steel, made in the USA, very high grind, beautiful drop point, the stock thickness, the steel choice. I mean, the geometry for woodsworking, for food prep, for piercing and stabbing, all of it comes together in a way that I hope at some point ZT literally takes this blade and then makes like a true camp knife handle, like just a more kind of neutral organic handle. That would be an amazing, amazing option. As it stands, you get one of the best steels and blade shapes for camping you're gonna find, and then you gotta deal with an iconic like fighting knife handle and guard. So it doesn't create any hot spots when you carve with it, you do your basic woodworking. It's mainly the guard. Now it's all chamfered and rounded. I slammed on it, batoned on it. I didn't get any rattling, which often happens with these guards. This guard is locked into place. They really did a good job with that. You have a screw down butt cap, and then you can actually disassemble the whole thing with the handle scales and everything and then bolt it all back together, which is pretty impressive. So all of those details really allow for this to be a really fun camp knife built out of premium materials. And if you think back to 1800s, especially in America, a lot of those knives that they used around camp were giant Bowie style knives with big guards and things like that they would use for their just general belt knife, camp knife. And so this, in a way, harkens back to actual true frontierism in a way that maybe most of us don't always look at in the 21st century. Now, with that said, of course it's not perfect. And the sheath, at least on mine, and I know many of yours, is atrocious. It's not a good sheath. I think they've kind of tweaked it maybe a little bit. I heard more recent models don't have quite the issues, but the tension is not great. It's just going to fall right out on my model. It binds up all the time on the Kydex. It is ambidextrous, so I mean, you could work with it, and maybe if you luck out, your design won't have that issue. I would love for them to just either redesign the sheath or come up with some sort of leather option. If someone knows of a leather maker that is making a leather sheath for this, I think the design would actually really work well with the leather sheath, but the sheath is pretty atrocious from my experience, and you're definitely going to want to upgrade that if the design really connects with you. Leave a comment. If you own the 0006 and you do use it camping, I would love to know what the ratio is, but you roll up to a campsite with that, I know we're going to have a good time. I know we're going to have a blast if you roll up with the ZT-006, excuse me. All right, up next is a phenomenal tool when you can get your hands on it, and it is the REIFF Knives F5. Now, if you're not familiar with REIFF knives, the premium design is always been extremely well executed with these tools. No questions asked, lifetime warranty on these blades. And the 5-inch version to me is just the quintessential camp knife with a very high flat grind, 5-inch blade, 90-degree spine. It's because of how high the grind is, it slices even though it's coming up on 3/16 of an inch thick. Full tank construction, and what I love about it is, is it going to be? Yeah, it is I believe it's the most neutral handle design we have today, meaning neutrality in most camp knives, more neutral the better, so that there are no hot spots, there's no angles, there's no transitions, you have a little bit of a guard enough to keep you locked in. Wouldn't be something I would, be stabbing with a bunch, because you could, because of how organic it is, slide up, but that means that there's no hot spots. The handle is so comfy. It is beefy as all get out and just really fills out the hand. So if you're a person who has large hands, or you just like really big full handles that are very neutral in their design, this is going to be the best on the list. By far, CPM 3V steel. This thing is a workhorse around the campsite and just really checks basically every box a camper would probably look for. Now, nothing, again, with every single one, is perfect. The Kydex sheaths from REIFF Knives, I'm not a massive fan of, mainly because the tension is usually okay, but also the belt attachment is not to my preference and my liking. It kind of is like a tops clip. The leather sheaths that they have recently started doing are phenomenal, mind-blowing. So if you can get one with the Kydex, it's doable, but not my preference. The leather sheaths are amazing, super high quality. You can pick right or left, when you're ordering them, as long as they're in stock, and really take it to 11. And that is one of the most simplistic designs executed in the best way possible when you're looking at a REIFF knife, and particularly of all the F series, the F5. I am super excited for this next one, because not only have they given us an option to upgrade, but I know at this point hundreds of you have picked up this knife based off of my previous reviews and overwhelmingly love the design. And it is the LIONSTEEL T5, the Italian Stallion, baby. Oh my gosh, this is one heck of a sick knife, and I will say, for me personally, has the coolest styling and feels the most premium of all the knives on our list today. This Italian-made blade has, like ribbing in a sunshine, like beam form on the single piece of micarta that they then canoe out and then drop the tang of the knife into and bolt it down. It's wild. You don't see that on most knives, and it's very like, whoa, the notoriety immediately like kicks up a notch. At about 5 inches, you get a really aesthetically pleasing, almost like a mild harpoon design with a 90-degree spine. You can stab, you can pierce. This is definitely a crossover blade. You can totally use it camping and get a lot of work done, but I would easily trust this on a battle belt, go bag, things that you might have to use a knife more aggressively for, not only because of the blade shape and tip strength, but also the very deep guard and again, the ergonomics are just very, very comfortable. Really, really good design overall, and very aesthetically pleasing to boot. And the original model comes with a leather sheath. I don't believe you can pick it up still with the Kydex now. The leather sheath is actually a pretty good leather sheath for being leather, but a lot of us prefer Kydex. They have now offered a Kydex version, so I upgraded the sheath. Just bought it for my knife that I've had for, gosh, probably 4 or 5 years now. And the Kydex is really good. I mean, it really locks you in. It's got a PALS webbing. You can rotate, do a lot of stuff for it. I think that was a really good upgrade for the design overall. Now, and this is going to be like one of the best values of all these blades. So not only does it feel exquisite and premium, but it's also one of the best values you're going to find. Now, with that said, the drawback is a double-edged sword because it's the steel. Now, the steel is Nylox steel. And that's not very familiar to us, especially in America, maybe a little bit more so in Europe, but it's just not a really well-known steel. I've used it a ton, been very pleased with the results. It has good wear resistance, has good durability from my experience, and overall good rust resistance as well. The main detractor is just that because it's a harder steel, you're going to take more time to resharpen it. It's not the best resharpening steel when you're out in the field camping for days or weeks. It's going to take more time. You're definitely going to need a diamond stone to maintain and hone the edge properly if you do create damage on it. But for the size, it's been absolutely durable, done everything that I would want that steel to do. If it was made out of a more well-known steel, say like CPM 3V, maybe MagnaCut, or even S35VN, I think there would be a lot more popularity because people would know about they'd know that steel because they've had it on other knives, and so they know what they're getting. With Nylox, they're kind of like, what is the steel and what does it do? So again, I haven't had any issues with it, but I think it would help if they transitioned or at least offered another steel as well of those 3 that I listed. Leave a comment below on what you would love to see. I think CPM 3V would be sick to have this. I don't think it needs MagnaCut, but who knows? Leave a comment. Which steel would you love to see on some new version of the LIONSTEEL T5? All right, coming to the home stretch. 2 more to go. This next one is really near and dear to my heart, but I feel really checks a lot of boxes because it's the first knife that I ever had the honor of having some input in the designing process, and it is the TJ Schwarz LT5. Oh yeah, check that blade out. Quintessential, massive belly, broad bladed camp knife. This thing is so cool, and I was honored to have TJ reach out to me and say, hey man, I got this camp knife design. I'd like to partner with you, and like get your input. So it's his design, but I was able to give a lot of critiques and data points that we were able to tweak with and play around with and ultimately land on this design. And what's unique about this blade in a few ways is that this is sporting A2 tool steel with a Rockwell of 62 to 63. Now, you may think A2 is like kind of archaic and like, why would we use that steel? Well, when TJ was looking at different steels to choose from, he wanted something that brought good value but also good durability. And he was able to bring this steel with his heat treating and stuff that he went with up to that Rockwell. So it's got great edge retention and wear resistance, but is really tough. There's a durability level that is really shocking that you will find on this A2. So with whatever is, magic sauce that he's doing with the steel, really performs well. It's going to hold its edge. It is I don't know if it's a full-on high carbon, but definitely it's easier to resharpen than many other like high-performing stainless steels. You will need to keep an eye on it. That's why there is that Cerakote on there, but it has a 90-degree spine. It's 5/32 of an inch thick. So imagine like the Becker BK2, but actually like of a thinness and weight size you might actually want to use. Better indexing on rich light handle scales and just massive, massive belly on the blade. And then awesome, check this out. Ooh, Kydex sheath with stainless steel. I believe it's stainless steel because it doesn't rust. Stainless steel drop with a leather loop that's ambidextrous. So I mean, it is a excellent, excellent camp tool. I know many of you have scored these because they are batch runs. They come out and they sell it quick, and then a couple weeks later, another one comes out. And so leave a shout out if you own one of these, how do you like it? How has it been performing for you? But to me, it gives you the indexing, but fullness and broad, really ready to rock and roll. If you were to ask me if like what would be a drawback in the design, is that it is definitely for the camper. The belly is massive for slicing the tip. I mean, it could pierce, but it just doesn't have the piercing capability of knives like the URSUS or the the T5, which are going to have a more piercing, narrow tip, giving you more crossover potential capability. I really view this as like a dedicated camp knife because of the blade shape that was chosen, but it's very durable. You can definitely do some stabbing and prying with it, and it's going to hold up versus thinner, more piercing blades may not be able to handle all of the durability that broader, blunter tip will be able to endure. All right, what's our final blade to hit today? Well, it is a knife that fixes all of the problems that I have with the SE6. Now, I love the SE6. I still recommend it to this day. And if you are just looking for a basic knife, that could be a survival knife, could be a camp knife, just do everything blade, the SE6 is at the top of the list. And if you own one, give a shout out. It is an amazing tool. With that said, it is not perfect, and there are several attributes over time that I have discovered that are just not my preference, that I would prefer to see changed, and that's the whole point with these knives, is can you get something better with the preference points that you look for? And usually it will cost you, and they're more premium. Well, the Architect Knives AK 5.5 fixes all of the problems that I have with the SE6. First and foremost is that this blade has a high saber grind on a stock thickness that is 5/32, or 0.15, meaning that it is thinner than the SE6, but has a grind geometry that I prefer. Full flat grinds like on the SE6 are fine, but they usually have a thinner blade geometry, edge stability, all that stuff. A saber grind is usually more durable, and because this actually has a thinner stock, this means that it's actually going to be a little bit lighter and still have the same or even better slicing geometry to the full flat grind version that the SE6 brings to the table. And part of that is because of these more premium steels versus basic like 1095, you can get the same durability or even more durability with thinner stocks than the thicker stocks you have to have on lower grade steel. So that's what's really cool about these premium designs. So that's the first thing. Stock thickness, grind geometry have been changed, and I prefer those two things. Separate from that is the deletion of the choil. The SE6 doesn't really need a choil. It's fine, but it doesn't need it. And this knife deletes that and gives you about the same amount of cutting edge, about just over 5 inches. So you're able to get closer up. The overall footprint is more compact, but you're not losing any cutting capability. Finger choils to me are best used on blades like 7 inches and more, and you're starting to get into like a survival knife, wilderness chopper, and you got a lot of weight behind it, but you want to choke up and get a good balance point. That's where I see choils having value. Leave a comment below on whether or not you like choils or not. You may notice none of these blades on our list today have a choil, because I don't think they're needed in the size range. So deletes the choil, makes it more compact, but actually we don't lose any blade length. So all of those factors coming together really take it to the next level. Now, if you're not familiar with Architect knives, the whole point is that you can build out your own blades. So they do batches, they have 1095, CPM 3V, they've got MagnaCut, S35V, and there's so many options to choose from. They come and go in their availability. So if there's a steel you like, just sit on it. It'll come back into stock. Even if you did 1095, I think it would still be a better design than the SE. So that's just something, and again, I love the SE6, and if you just wanted one and done, still do it. It's awesome, and I highly recommend. But the idea is that you can choose your steel, you can choose G10 or micarta handle scales, and you can choose leather or Kydex sheaths, and those Kydex is amazing, amazing, amazing. White River is the OEM for all their stainless, and I believe the 3V, and then Tops is the OEM for all of their 1095. And then they have lifetime, no questions asked warranty, excellent warranty with all of that. With that said, the availability, you got to fight the availability. A lot of these you got to fight the availability on, so that could be a detractor. Not perfect. It does not currently have 90-degree spines on any of their non-1095 versions, so you can't scrape, can't throw sparks, and the jimping is kind of aggressive. I don't think it's even necessary on the design. I mean, the ergonomics are excellent. You know, if you really like resting your thumb right there and you're doing lots of hard push cuts, you're going to feel it unless you have gloves on. You could, you know, buff it or whatever. It's just a little data point. Again, if we're talking premium and like, those are little detractors, no 90, no, you know, jimping that I wish were changed, and then just overall availability, you know, having to wait to order, you know, and find the steel that you prefer, and you may have to be patient. But aside from that, when I reviewed the 1095 version years ago, I was just blown away. And then, you know, they kind of revamped and then started doing all these more premium steels, and I was just like, amazing. But I want to know from you guys, what is your list? Leave a list, okay? I want to know of your top 7. And maybe you could just do top 7 camp knives. Let's say premium if you can. Premium camp knives either that you own, that you like, that you wish for, you know, and which of these maybe made the most sense that you're like, dude, that one is the one I'm going to save up for, you know, and want to, you know, take. And again, the memories are what are most meaningful when we go out on our camping adventures and outdoor exploration. The tools just make that experience just more enjoyable. But that it's not the tools, it's the experience itself and the people that we share it with. So, love you guys. Hope it's been fun, entertaining. Check some boxes for you. Scratch the itch for all you blade lovers the world over. Until next time, check out the other videos, subscribe, and always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.